Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Deckinaround Kickstarter Edition. Today we're going to be taking a look at some new decks that have launched on Kickstarter this week, as well as several funded and soon-to-fund decks on the platform. But before we get into it, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. So let's take a look at some of these decks. So recently this week, we have the Peach and Cedar Bicycle Rainbow cards that funded. We have the Art of Khan custom mark deck that funded. The COVID-19 themed cards that funded. The Bicycle Parallel Universe playing cards relaunch. And by the time this lands, the Omens playing cards will have funded. So congratulations to all the decks that funded this week. A lot of good looking decks in there, so it's always exciting to see a good batch of decks that actually funded. We actually have a couple decks also that are going to be ending this week, so make sure to check those out before it's too late to get on those. We have the Zodiac Portents playing cards, the Incantation playing cards,
Yeah, Mike.
the Passport Inspired collector cards, the Tiki playing cards, the Florentia playing cards, and the Like Lightning playing cards. So those are all ending within the next week, so make sure to check those decks out and back them if you like them. So let's take a look at
Brand.
I know some of these decks really have done really well. I mean, there's I think one or two in there that are a little iffy as to whether or not they'll hit the goal, but for the most part, everything ending this week looks like it's gonna fund well above their goal. So that's awesome.
Yeah, good for them.
Yeah. All right, so let's take a look at what's going on for this week. Looks like we actually have a good amount of decks that have come out in the past week. First one to take a look at here, we have this Floral Patterns playing cards. I'll come right out and first off the bat, not necessarily my style, but this is actually an interesting looking deck. A good kind of representation of several different colors of pink, and I think with pink decks being hot right now, this is actually one that manages to pull off the color scheme. I think there's a lot of decks that come out in pink that just don't look that good. You know, this one, while it may not be my style, actually manages to have the pink not look washed out or not look too, out of place. So,
Yeah, it's not my style either. I yeah, just not my style.
I think the deck is definitely geared towards fanning. You can tell just by the patterning on the back of it. Early bird deck price at $10 plus, so $15 shipped isn't terrible on the early bird. I think the non-early bird gets up to 17. So, and that's for US shipping there. I think worldwide might be a little bit an extra $2. So that's actually not too bad of a variation there between US versus worldwide. But it definitely looks like, yeah, like I mentioned, it looks like it has a fan slash cardistry kind of motivation behind it. I think one of the cool things is too, obviously, doing a bloom with a flower themed deck is pretty interesting. There's a lot of good information on here, though. I actually like the color patterning on the quartz.
Kind of reminds me of the color of the Kava's deck.
Yeah, it's very similar to Carver's, maybe not as vibrant, but I think for roses it makes a little more sense to be a little subdued. Definitely a good looking deck. I think one of the things that's really cool about this is it's got the little like roses in each hand, and then it looks like it actually the King of Diamonds there is holding a floral card right there with the back. So not a reveal necessarily, but he's got a little card. So cute
It would
little.
have been cool. It would have been cool on the court cards to change it up rather than just have them hold a rose for each one of them. Maybe have like a bouquet of roses, or like just change it up a little bit.
Yeah. Now, definitely would have added a little more spice across it. And also, though, we're only seeing, four different courts there. So maybe to some extent there is, and they just didn't show them. But I think they probably would have otherwise. Um, Also, an indication there, V1. So it very well may be that this is one of many planned. Relatively standard Ace of Spades with the little rose to kind of tie it into the theme there. I do like the pink and black contrast. I think it's a little more stark of a contrast than what we saw with the Carvers, which again was the black and was it green and green and pink, or black? It was black and pink. So this has a little more pop to it. The pink's a little more vibrant there. The one thing that throws me about the back is you don't really see the roses other than the color in the fan, but it's still a pretty good looking fan.
Yeah, we'll see how that lines up when USPCC gets a hold of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's always a problem with them in the registration, and obviously this is probably either a prototype or a render. I'm assuming probably a prototype, so it very well could have better registration on the prototype than on the final deck itself.
Yeah, it's definitely a prototype because I actually ordered a couple decks. I bought a couple decks off this guy,
All right.
and who's super cool guy, and he sent a sample of that deck. So it was definitely
Nice.
they've been printed prototype wise.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, so prototypes in the photos. I always think it's nice to see an actual physical deck in the photos, so I think they did a great job with the campaign there in bringing visibility to the interesting aspects of the deck. Again, I think people who
How,
like this style are going to enjoy it.
how much is the goal?
Um,
6,000.
yeah, 6,000.
Not bad.
Yeah, and it's already about almost a quarter of the way, so that's not too bad within. I think they just opened funding at the time of this recording, maybe like 6 hours ago, so that's really not too bad.
What's the who's doing the fulfillment? Gamblers?
So that is one thing that I don't know if I saw. Yeah, gamblers. See, and actually,
So they're probably paying like $4 or $5 for the deck. Probably $4 actually.
in all things considered, one of the nice things about this, the way they did this, is your fulfillment and the plan is right at the top. I find more often than not it's at the bottom. You have to scroll down to it. That's where I was planning on going. But having that right up close to the top gets people the information they're curious about right away. You know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, I think like I said, the guy who's running it, Soren,
yeah.
is super. He's a super cool guy. Very friendly. Knows how to package, decks. Super rad guy,
Nice.
and I wish him the best of luck on this campaign. Prices, I think the prices are great. For standard, it's a $10 deck, $12 deck. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not early bird though. Early bird's like 10
Yeah,
bucks,
10
right?
bucks early bird. So,
Yeah, so I think that's spot on. I think that's good. Good luck to him.
yeah. All right. So let's see what's up next. And guys, make sure to stick around to the end and see which decks we would actually recommend or fund ourselves. So I think the next deck up is the Chiba Japanese playing cards here, which I actually really like the fact that this is like a Shiba Inu themed deck. I don't have a dog, but I think Shiba Inus are cool dogs, and I really like the black and white on this. It's very clean. The one area I could see that being a point of confusion immediately, and I already see it, is black hearts. So I'm assuming that all the courts are black, which, if you're playing poker, could be problematic or lead to some confusion there.
Yeah, it's a little too much black and white for me. Um, it would have been really cool to see a little bit more contrast on the back because I think those three little
Yeah, the dogs almost get
one way
lost.
one way dogs are kind of cool.
Yeah,
It would have been cool to see like some color in there.
yeah. It's definitely a good start. If this doesn't fund, I really do hope they, take this to the drawing board. But I think it'll have probably a pretty good following behind it, just because people like dogs, and it's a cute deck for sure. Um,
But are these just in black and white or what's the deal with the
so I think all of the cards are black and white.
really?
Uh, oh no,
I
why?
can't.
Yeah, no. The usual red color cards, diamonds and heart, are filled with this Segayaha. I can't pronounce that for the life of me. Pattern to distinguish them. Oh no, so each card is symbol. Yeah, no, so they're black and white, and it's the patterning is what they're using to distinguish between usually red pips and indexes. So yeah, I mean that kind of puts us into an interesting category of who's going to go for this deck. It's really going to become more of a novelty deck than a usable deck. I mean, you're not going to see a magician out there who's going to have cards that aren't easily identifiable. Again, poker's off the table. Um,
I mean, most magicians aren't going to use this deck
yeah,
because first of all, the one way back and a very noticeable one way back.
yeah.
So no magician's gonna use it.
Yeah, but all things considered, I mean, honestly, I like the Jokers. I think it's very neat there how it's the front of the dog and the back of the dog. I could have done without the little, dog rear end right there, but
The butthole.
yeah, yes, I could have done without it. But all things considered, I do like the USPCC deck, like filled by gamblers. This is a solid deck. It's good looking. It looks like what do we have here? A $10 start price, 16 shipped. Not bad at all. I mean, that's right in a good price point there. 29 for two, so it brings you down to 14.50 each. So definitely a cute deck. It's got some potential.
When did it go live? And what's the goal?
I want to say it just went live. So this is actually a longer campaign. I'm not sure when it would have went live. 40 something days. So this has been live for a bit, maybe like almost 2 weeks. Or
Oh,
what are
really?
they do? 40 or 45? I think it's 40. So it's been live for almost over a week. Or we didn't see this last week, so it must have been within the past week. Goals 9,000, which is a little high considering.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it looks like a USPCC or a Gambler's printed standard tuck. Like, there's nothing special about the tuck.
Oh yeah, no. This deck costs $4
Yeah,
tops.
but it's not bad looking. I mean, I definitely think if it gets some momentum behind it, it's cute and people like that. But again, even if this doesn't fund, I think taking this back to the drawing board, this is actually a solid idea. So
Yeah, I mean, I dig the back design. I just wish it had some color on it to kind of like differentiate between the dogs and that pattern. You know, it'd be cool to maybe even have like, so obviously the dogs are black and white, to have the pattern in like a color or something.
yeah. All right. Next up, we have the no playing cards, which are going to be printed,
No,
which are going to be printed with
no,
USPCC. This is hands down a
no.
cardistry deck. I mean, we know this for sure. I feel like this deck has been talked about a lot on social media too. Not even more recently, but for a while. Like they've really been trying to build up the backing and the momentum behind this deck for a while. So
Really?
yeah, I mean they followed my account maybe like a couple months ago. So
No, I don't even think I've even heard it.
yeah, I heard it like in the works. USPCC B stock, not bad. Looking at a variable run here, but again, being a cardistry deck, it's not necessarily, people are looking for a limited edition or anything like that. So 2,500 or 1,000, depending on backers, that's reasonable. Um,
I mean, it's an $8 early bird, which is
yeah,
pretty
that's
cool.
really not bad. I mean, for USPCC B stock, it doesn't mention crushed, so I'm assuming not crushed, but still, like $8 and what's the shipping? $13 shipped. That's really not bad at all. Um, and even $14 shipped non-early bird. That's one of the things, and I know we've discussed this in the past. I think you have to have a little bit of a bigger gap between early bird and non just to make it like desirable. Like for me, if I was on the fence about this deck, I wouldn't be concerned about missing out on $1 for early bird versus maybe backing this in 30 days and deciding, you know?
Yeah, I mean, a dollar's a dollar. Some people, it's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, I always feel like the minimum you should see difference between early bird and the ultimate price is like $2 though. I think it makes the most sense because then you're looking at
Yeah,
more than a 10% difference there.
yeah, no, I agree.
So,
I agree.
interesting interesting deck again, very okay, looks like relatively standard courts. They mention yeah, subtle changes here and you can kind of see it with the king. The eyes are a little bit changed, the blade right there is a little different. Nothing too crazy. The Joker's a little goes with the whole no theme, I guess. Same with the Ace of Spades, which has the red like cross out over the Ace of Spades.
Yeah,
Not a bad.
I dig that Ace of Spades.
Yeah,
Kind of cool.
no. Again, this isn't a bad deck for the price. If you're looking,
Not a huge fan of the back design,
yeah, very geometric. Kind of
but
reminds me of like a record in the middle there. But I think the other thing that I'm surprised about is that they don't have a fan render. Oh no, there we go. So
yeah,
yeah,
they do.
yeah.
There.
It's. I mean, listen, it's not bad looking for a $13 ship deck. This could be a good like everyday deck for someone who's really into cardistry. So worth checking out.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
yeah, not my style. Uh,
Man, not either. Victorian.
this is one that I'm interested in checking out. So let's see what we got here. Just because I think they did.
Dude, $3,300 goal. That's like so low.
Yeah. So I wonder where they're printing. not a cheap deck though. Jeez, $22 shipped.
$17.
Yeah. I mean, listen, they're very fanciful courts. You can definitely see why it's pushing towards the higher end of what I would consider for a relatively standard deck. Hopefully, they have some foil or something somewhere. Um,
Let's find out. Let's
eh,
see what they have.
it very much reminds me, at least the filigree work and everything, of like some of those like bicycle deluxe decks and like the elite playing card decks. Oh, yeah, dude, like that back is crazy.
Yeah, like I'll say it again. I've said it so many times, and I'll say it again. I'm not saying that this is what this designer did or who like the creator did, but the one thing people have to remember is you can't charge a price for your creation of the art every time. You charge for it once, and the once meaning the project is you charging for it. $17 for a deck that's printed by NPCCC. Um, so it has foil on the tuck and metallic
So the
inks,
metallic inks are
and
actually
it
a
has
stretch
numbered
goal though.
custom seal.
So it only has silver foil on the tuck out the gate. So
No, that's feature. The stretch goals are
no, no,
below
no.
it.
Look right here. Asterisk feature, asterisk. Yeah. So the only things that are coming
Oh,
out of the gate are an embossed tuck with silver foil. Which, granted, though, too, you factor in the silver foil and the embossed tuck, it makes that $17 a little more a little more understandable. But at the same time, too, NPCC
no,
printed. I'm not a huge fan there.
no.
Yeah.
What's the stretch goal? Let's see. Victor. Oh yeah. See. So hold on.
€4,000 for the cards with metallic ink, 5,000 for the custom seal, 6 for the second foil, 7 for inner printing, 8 for foiled stock for the tuck, and 9,000 for a second deck, which is the pearl version, which is basically just a recolor.
Yeah.
It'll be
No.
interesting to see how this does. They've already they're $7 from their goal, which means they've pretty much, yeah, it's €6 from their goal. They'll hit it. Obviously, they're gonna fund. As for how far they'll get through the stretch goals, it'll be interesting to see. I think they would have done very well to have a alternative printer for the stretch goals, but
Yeah. I mean, it would have been cool to like. They would have got more support if the deck was priced accordingly to the
yeah.
deck.
And I didn't see. I may have missed it, but I didn't see anything about fulfillment on this. I think one of the
I mean, we gotta take in like think about this for a second. It's like this person has a deck. Is this
first deck they're
the
creating.
first deck?
Let's see.
Is it?
Um, yes, first created.
So first created. Okay, so it's the first deck they're creating, and it's a $17
Yeah.
deck.
I'm,
Like you have Alex Chin who comes out with the seasons decks, the Midnight Elixir, which is
yeah.
$15. That's Alex Chin from Seasons. Um, and here's a designer, a first time designer that um, is charging $2 more for a deck that
I
you
definitely
know
think there's a lot of potential though in this. If you look at where all the foil would actually be on, even out of the box with all of the silver foil there. But yeah, it's a little bit on the higher end. This is something that maybe with the stretch goals being met might be more enticing. But yeah, we'll see. Um, Next we have the Grandmaster
was the
XCMs.
oh yeah
Yeah,
Devo
which to
standard
yeah, I mean
Devo
it's a
tuck
recolor on the
box
tuck
standard.
from his last deck, which was the Grandmaster Casinos. Recolor on the back as well. Subtle changes to the fronts. I'm just honestly, and I had a discussion the other day. It might have been with you about this. I'm not a fan of the very like the background colored faces. They just get lost. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, like yeah, here's the casinos that he just ran. You can tell it's not much different. Um, They do have the pearlescent stock on the casinos, but again, you could. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a. It's a very intricate deck. I do have to say his art is very intricate. Very intricate. You can see it throughout the entire court cards and the border and everything. When you get like up close, it's very well designed. But the colors just clash so horribly. So, and
Yeah, just not my style for sure. I think he just has a like a cult
and
following,
honestly, though,
and
dude,
those are the people that back his decks,
yeah,
which is why his decks only the campaign only lasts for what 2 days, two
yeah,
weeks,
and
not
there you
even.
go, $18 for a standard or 24 for a their special edition, the foil edition, and literally the only difference is the tuck on one. It has some embossed foil on it, and it's not even a lot of embossed foil, so that's a pretty big ask there price wise. But yeah, people seem to love it. 14,000 out of 4,500. So with 9 days to go, funded a
Crazy.
lot slower this time though than his last one. I think his last one funded in 8 minutes. This one funded in 2 hours. So something to take into account there. And then we have the Vonnart illustrated playing cards here, which I think this guy has created stuff in the past, but not cards. So this is his first go at cards, which should be interesting. It's not a bad looking deck. Already well surpassed its
What's the
goal.
ninth? Wow, he got
Yeah, I'm
27,000.
guessing this guy has some sort of backing as an artist versus, a playing card designer.
Oh, he's got it because it's not even it's on like M31 casino quality card
Yeah, so
stock,
who
which
knows
is
who's
from
even.
where?
Oh yeah, this is one I remember the printer's farther down, and it's obviously it sounds like it's either going to be a small printer or it's someone who's outsourcing to another printer, but still not using anything like not using USPCC. Um,
And what is it with just black and white cards now? Like, wait, well, come on
I
now,
well, I
let's
think
get some
I think the
color.
style here for him is very much pencil drawn and shaded, so I can kind of get that, but it's
Right.
still yeah, it's visually hard to distinguish between hearts and spades if there's no coloration difference there. Also, geez,
Yeah, I mean
dude, $25 a deck.
it's gilded though.
No, the standard.
Oh, that's the standard.
Oh wait,
Wait,
wait.
with my own
I can't
face.
tell here. Yeah, this already the cards in the box.
The cards in the box. Yeah,
Oh
it's
yeah.
gilded,
Okay,
bro.
so actually that's really not bad for a gilded deck then. Um, and gold embossing. So I like how they're using a white artisans there
Yeah,
as an example of gold embossing. Um,
that's funny.
hopefully that gilding.
Which I doubt they're getting it printed at
Yeah,
Close
no, I
Street.
doubted it also. And honestly, I know this is probably a render of the gilding, but I really hope it's not a matte gold gilding because a high gloss gold gilding is so much nicer than that like grainy looking matte gold gilding. Um,
Yeah, well, we'll see about
I do
that.
think it's good that they're going for like no plastic used. So we've seen a lot of decks are really starting to advertise the green aspect of their processing and their packaging, which I think is really good. But yeah, no plastic wrap, no stickers, compostable mailers. So this guy's really taking the green aspect into it. The artwork really is phenomenal too. I do have to say he's an amazing illustrator.
It's beautiful
Yeah,
artwork, and you can tell that that's where his backers are coming in. They're probably big fans of
yeah.
his, and they're definitely cool illustrations for sure.
Oh, so there you go too. An early bird would have run you $20 for a gilded deck, which isn't bad though. But again, knowing the printer would have made this a little more interesting from the collector point of view. Um, this really, dude, $10 a deck, well plus shipping, for a brick of gilded decks. Like that's not bad. These are reasonably priced. Yeah, you can tell people already picked up his artwork, so there's definitely a following there. Signed original drawing for 280. That's pretty reasonable, depending on the size.
Yeah, no, I mean, you could, yeah, it's definitely he's definitely has following, which is great.
Oh,
I
and
think that's cool.
if you look at it too, he's slowly rolling out each of the drawings so to keep people hooked on. I mean, listen, smart idea. Time
Smart,
sensitive goals,
smart
yeah.
guy. Yeah,
Time sensitive tiers are an amazing aspect to this. So drawing people back every 2 days is 2 to 3 days is brilliant.
Yeah, no, this guy's smart for
Yeah.
sure.
The only bummer is, and I thought I saw the printer
How
earlier,
much
but
are those draw? I'm curious. How much are those
it was like 250 to
as
280.
add-on? Oh yeah, see,
Yeah.
he's got falling for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because it doesn't really mention the size. Up here we go. It doesn't
Yeah,
mention the
one.
dimensions, which is surprising. I'd be curious for me to know how big it is because I'd also want to know what a frame would cost for it.
Yeah,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, I do. I know they mentioned, or I could have sworn they mentioned the printer, but I guess not. So it's interesting. I wouldn't be surprised, and let's do a quick check in the comments. I wouldn't be surprised if someone asked who's printing. Um,
I don't think the people that are backing him care.
yeah, it's very good chance of that. And yeah, that's surprising. I mean, listen, deck looks
They
good.
don't.
His artwork looks good. I probably wouldn't
Dude, he
back
has
him.
828 backers. Like they're those are not playing card backers.
Yeah, no, that's a lot. That's a
Yeah,
significant
no,
amount.
there's no way. Like those are his fans for sure, which
Yeah,
is great. I mean,
yeah,
he killed it. The way he set it up was great. He obviously had three previous
yeah. All for his art
campaigns
too.
that were
So yeah,
all successful of his art. So he definitely has a huge cult following. So good for him.
yeah, which is awesome.
Not my style, but
See, I liked it,
good
and I
work.
probably would have backed it if I had known who the printer was. So, all right, 50 states playing cards printed by Cardamundi. Again, smart move putting your printer right in the title. Helps draw, especially if people are searching for things like that. Something to always consider when you're building out a
Yeah,
Kickstarter is keywords in the
for sure.
title. Um, this,
Dagan.
yeah, Dagon. I mean,
Yeah,
not necessarily my
he went with
style.
Jason from Deck Idea.
Yeah, yeah, who did the
Is
Serpent
cool.
deck? He has a bunch of decks in the works. I know if you're on Instagram and follow him at all, you'll see his like breakfast and food oriented decks popping up from time to time. I like the concept of it. I think it's interesting. The back of the decks reminded me very much of the the
Mizutama.
Mizutamas that just funded recently. I mean, obviously the color is different, but it's polka dots are polka dots to some extent. I feel like
I think it would have been really cool for that back design to maybe yeah, people could have said it's like the anyone souvenir deck, but I think it would have been cool to do those dots in the American flag. Maybe would have been cool.
that would have been interesting. Yeah.
It would have been cooler for sure.
So the
And I
one,
can't even
yeah.
see. That's way too
Yeah, the one
small.
thing I was going to say there is you're so much better off cutting this into pieces because I can't see anything there. I know you can't see anything there.
Yeah,
And I get you're trying to show like the full, oh, here's the 50 states, but I can't see anything about that. Yeah, here's like a
yeah.
much better rendition where you're closer up. It should have been honestly a better cut of this into multiple pictures. Uh,
I think it's cool. I think the idea of this deck is really cool because you can use it as a learning tool
yeah,
for kids.
and I like that there's the texturing to the back as
Yeah,
well. Like it's not just a flat color. Like you can see some texturing in the design itself, not necessarily like on the paper or embossing or anything like that on the cards, but like there's a
right.
almost like a cloth design
Yeah,
to it, which is really neat. Like it kind of makes this feel like a homespun kind of deck, very simple, but I mean that's also a good looking fan.
beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, it's really not a bad looking deck. There are definitely some tweaks that could have been made here and there to make it, I think, a little more appealing across the board.
Yeah.
But I
I
do,
and I'm really surprised because Jason's usually all about that, but I mean, obviously it wasn't his deck, but
yeah,
um, that's something that he probably, if it was his design, I mean, if it was his deck, he would have went about it a little different. Dude, I think that stamp, that seal is awesome.
the seal looks good. I like the fact that it's like a diptych cut
Diptych,
case,
yeah,
yeah, and it's not one of the threes. It's a two, so it's not like oh, well, I have to buy three decks to make a picture. Like
yeah,
this looks nice. I'm hit or miss on the brick box design. I think it's kind of I don't want to say lacks imagination, but like the Jokers, it's basically the Jokers on the box. I think they could have. There's a lot of real estate on this box that they really could have done something phenomenal there. Um,
agreed. How much is it per deck?
let's
$13.
13 plus shipping, $19 a deck. That's a little. Oh, and
Expensive.
that's the non-early bird. Early, there's still a few early birds available for two decks at 14 a deck, so a little more reasonable. But Yeah, not my. Yeah, that's a little pricey for what it was. If this was like an $11 to $13 deck, I might.
But
Yeah,
again, though, so this is where it's kind of tricky depending, right? So I think you got to pay a designer. You got like
yeah,
that's how much is it's. I mean, $13. It's about right. I mean, you got to
and
remember, Kickstarter is taking 10%.
yeah, and it's using
It's
gamblers as its fulfillment. So like, there's another fee
so
coming
shipping.
out. Yeah,
That's $1,000 for 1,000 decks to ship it.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So you got to take that into consideration as well.
I mean, it's again. I don't think it's an unreasonably priced deck, but I think based
Yeah,
on the price and my feelings towards it personally, it puts me out of the running for a backer. But I think it's a very
yeah,
creative deck, all things considered. It's also been popping up on social media, so I know Deckin has been going to it. The one thing I would have said there is probably starting the campaign a little bit earlier on social media to build the initial following. But he reached out to a lot of people.
yeah,
He really pushed on it, which I think is good. Um, yeah, I think it's a really cool deck. I'd love to see once this gets funded, and hopefully it gets funded where he goes next with his idea. But
yeah.
yeah, I love that like gray cloth textured background though too. I think it just looks so clean. So cool. And then I think we had one or two more decks here. I want to run through this one here, the Poisonous Floriography deck. I can tell you right away, this is probably not a USPCC or a Cardamundi printed deck, but I ran through this earlier, and I love the very like thin line drawing aspect to a lot of the cards. I'm not a huge fan of the borders there, and I have no idea who Hero and Villain Designs is, which makes me think that they're either using a third party there or something like that. But the artwork on this deck is interesting.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I think with some tweaks, this thing could definitely be a funded deck, but let's see, where is it? Ah, it's already over its goal, so it'll fund as is. Again, though, I think,
Well, how much does this thing go for?
2200. Oh, for the
No, no.
deck.
What's the yeah? Does
Where?
that say $25?
Put the. n-
Yeah, bro.
Okay, that's that shit crazy. The $25.
Next, next.
Yep.
Go to the Hellcats. Go to the Hellcats.
That just blew my mind a little bit. Jeez. $25. Like, I don't care how nice your art is, like that's a lot for a no-name printer, and yeah.
Let's think about this. How fucking like Rising Spade is $24.
Yeah.
Fully
That's
custom. I mean, full foil printed at Cotamundi.
yeah.
So
That's crazy. Alright,
yeah,
so
next. All right.
I know Hellcats was a big one that popped up earlier in the week as well, so give it a rundown. I actually really like the colors on it. The one thing to me that stands out with this is, and I think, yeah, listen, I think it's cool that it's got like Blue Angels. That's the inspiration behind it. And the designers created in the past, Custom Gambler, like he's got successful campaigns under his belt, so it's a deck that will probably fund.
Can you click and see what else he's created?
Sure. So he has created Day of the Dolls was his most recent one.
Yeah.
And then a burlesque playing cards, and then another Day of the Dolls
Did they
edition.
all did they all fund?
The only one that didn't was the first Day of the Dolls. So three successful decks and one successful other campaign related to those decks, though. So not bad. Probably knows what he's doing for it. I have to say, I think the crowns with the military uniform to me is a little disjointed. Like military related hats would have made a lot more sense there, but otherwise that's probably like my biggest like qualm with this deck. Like again, like the Jack does it perfect. The King and the Queen to me is a little out of place, whereas the Jack I think fits perfectly. I really like the colors. I think they're bright. I like the weathered peel to the paper. All that being said, it's not necessarily my style. I'm not like a military deck person, but I have no doubt that there's probably a good following behind this. The art's well done, fully custom. Yeah, it's not bad. What else do we have? And there's actually a good amount of stretch goals. I think that's one of the things that we've seen recently too that I have to say I think people need to put consideration into is either not having stretch goals or you have one stretch goal. The whole purpose of stretch goals is to continue to draw in backers once you've met your goal. People aren't necessarily enticed to go above and beyond with their backing if you've already met your goal. So you have stretch goals to keep the momentum going. There have been a few decks recently that just either have completely foregone stretch goals, which I think is a dangerous move because yeah, you hit your goal and then you come to a grinding halt, or they have like one stretch goal that's either really far out there and double their normal goal and it's never going to happen, or it's so close to their normal goal it should have just been included from the get-go because it's not creating that momentum to keep the campaign driving. But yeah, this is already at 300% of its goal, so obviously it's got a pretty solid following behind it. And Gambler's Warehouse will be fulfilling it, so cool. I gotta say, not some some not bad decks today.
How about that? No deck.
So Steve, I have to say, out of all these decks, which ones would you back, if any?
Go up.
So for whatever reason, it always does this to me here when I go back. Let me see. So
I'd back that carbon fiber cabinet. That's pretty dope.
yeah, that thing is crazy money.
It's $36.
Is it?
Yeah, that's actually
Oh
good.
yeah, that's really not too bad. Yeah,
I'd back that. That's
it's not a deck of cards.
yeah, that's all I'd back, bro.
All right. I mean, I personally,
Out of all those, if I had to back one, I'd back the 50 states.
okay. So I personally, I like the Victorian. I think it has potential, but I think the price point's a little too high just based on where it's being printed, and it's a fresh out the gate designer. I really like the Shina Ibu deck. I probably will watch that and maybe back that towards the end. Um,
I like the go up. I like the artwork for the all the way up. No, yeah, I'll keep going.
for this guy.
I like the artwork for that. That
Yeah.
thing's beautiful. That's beautiful right there. Click on that for me. $1,000 goal. Is it like a? Oh, okay. So it's like a memorable.
Yeah, no, I mean, clearly from the top design, it's not exactly a playing card enthusiast inspired deck. Not a bad looking deck. Yeah, I think
But how's the artwork?
the artwork is
beautiful.
phenomenal. I wouldn't be surprised. I can probably
Oh,
think of a
dude.
handful of people in the community who would hands down be backing this deck
I-
right now. So
I'd back that just because the artwork on it is so dope, and I wouldn't like care about anything else because clearly nothing else even matters on it.
Yeah.
Like the goal is $1,000. It's definitely a novelty deck, but the artwork is beautiful. That picture right there is amazing.
yeah. So a lot of new decks this week, but nothing really that necessarily popped. Like I said, I maybe have one or two that I would potentially back, but I think there's some things that need to be worked out on a few of those. Yeah.
No,
So so thanks everyone for checking out this week's Kickstarter edition. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so you can get updates on new videos we drop. And check back next week for some more Kickstarter updates.
thank you, everybody. Peace out.